My name is Lauren Cavaney. I'm the president and co-founder of Work Out Loud, and we are honored to have BW Design Group present today on enhancing Infor XA with progress billing. And I'd like to introduce Ganesh. If you would like to go ahead and start the webinar, that would be great. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Okay. Hey, before we begin, let me briefly introduce today's panel. I am Girish Subarna, Director of Enterprise Technology Consulting at BW Design Group. I have over 30 years of industry experience, including 25 years of working with Infor across a wide range of implementations and client engagements. Today, joining us is Mike Kelly, Senior XA Solution Analyst with Barry Miller Companies. Mike has more than 40 years of Infor XA experience and is widely recognized for his deep product knowledge and leadership in delivering complex XA projects. We also have Thiagaraj, Senior Delivery Lead at BW Design Group, with over 25 years of Infor XA experience. As one of the earliest members of Design Group team, he has played a key role in delivering successful XA solutions for clients. Finally, we have Mohammed Mustafa, project lead, who brings more than 20 years of Infor XA experience. Mustafa is one of the leading technical experts and has successfully delivered numerous complex projects during his time with BW Design Group. Can we move to the next slide? Okay, this is our agenda. So just to give you a brief introduction on BW Design Group, and then we will jump into progress billing, and then demo, and finally on the Q&A. Why BW Design Group? So let me take a moment to explain what we mean when we say that BW Design Group is powered by a manufacturer's mindset. Every client's environment, team, and pain points are different, and our approach is built around understanding that before we start prescribing solutions. For the next couple of slides, I want to walk you through what is working with BW Design Group looks like in practice. Okay, what truly differentiates Design Group is our ability to combine connection with nationwide scale. So with more than 45 offices and over 1,800 professionals across the United States, we bring local engagements and hands-on support while leveraging the resources of one firm organization. This combination of strong relationships, technical expertise, and geographic reach enables us to deliver consistent, customized solutions that solve our clients' most complex challenges. For the next slide, Mike. Okay, our Infor XA team brings a depth of expertise that had hard to find. Over half of our consultants, over 20 years of ERP experience, and that's paired with strong manufacturing domain proficiency. So we are not just XA experts, we understand the business running on it. On the technical side, our team has a strong knowledge of Infor OS and the Infor development framework, plus deep technical and functional knowledge of the platform itself. We also bring Microsoft Power BI and reporting experience so we can help you get more value out of your data, not just your transactions. And a few things that really set us apart. We built our own products like SM Plus, Import Plus, EC Plus, and Receive Plus to extend XA functionality beyond out of the box. And we have real integration experience across the broader ecosystem like CPQ, IDM, WMS, and more. With that brief introduction to BW Design Group, I would now like to hand over the session to Mike Kelly. Mike Kelly will walk us through the power of progress billing in XA, demonstrating how it can strengthen project controls, improve billing visibility, and help drive healthier cash flow throughout the project sector. We appreciate you joining us today, and I hope you find the session both valuable and insightful. Mike, over to you.
Hello all. So progress billing is an application designed to add functionality to Infor XA ERP to allow milestone billing of your projects. Many customers would have, or many companies would have the need to bill over time before revenue is recognized, and sometimes even after. We will get into the details of it as we go through here. Some of the big points about progress billing: first of all, it's tightly integrated with XA. The users will come in here and already be familiar with the screens, the look, the feel. In fact, it's embedded within the order entry process in customer service management. It's embedded in the financial transaction processes as well. And we will see that as we go through the demo later on. This tool also is baked into the PowerLink, NetLink, SystemLink functionalities already set up in the system. Very familiar to your user community. It also has a great deal of flexibility with taxes, sales tax. If you happen to be in Europe, it would provide VAT, and it even handles GST for those countries that need it. So this is a swim lane diagram, shows the standard process flow of progress billing, separating it from the different departments that might be involved. Sales would take care of the normal order entry process and also add these milestone terms into them for billing at different times. It would also manage any change orders that does happen, including changing the terms as it required. Operations would normally ship the machine. Sometimes they also add charges for freight and things like that at shipment. And then the finance team takes care of all the billing. That includes, yes, invoicing the shipment, but it also means invoicing these milestones and eventually receiving the cash. Looking at just how this looks to these different users. In the customer order entry, they would go into their normal functions, open an order up, the general tab and item tabs look very much the same as they always have to them. But you'll notice up here there's a new tab, the progress billing total invoice tab, and here's where you would put the milestones in that will be eventually billed for this order. Now, on the invoicing function, this is more a finance function. There's a new icon for that. It can be on the customer service menu, could be on the finance menu. That's up to the deployment team. In here, all the default would be that all the uninvoiced milestones would show up here. There's a bit of color coding. Anything in red is due either today, due to be invoiced either today or in the past. And it would be standard black type for any of them that are for the future. And if they've already been invoiced and that's somehow in your subset, they would be green so that you know that they're already invoiced. To invoice milestone is very straightforward. You just click on the icon at the top of the screen, and it gives you a confirmation screen here with a few things you can change, and then you press the continue button, and automatically an invoice is generated in the background. An invoice that looks and feels to the customer very much like the shipment invoice. We can review the transactions that are generated behind the scenes in IFM here, right in the same AR or transaction menus in the finance tabs. You can see this list that I'm displaying as a sample includes a shipment as well as these milestone invoices all in the same list. And if you open up the details of a milestone invoice, what we'll notice here is that it open accounts receivable with an open balance, but it does not offset our revenue sales. It offsets a contra account. All this is configurable within the normal general ledger interface configuration. Here's an example card where it's telling the charge and offsets. So that means that any company out here can configure it the way they want to manage it in their general ledger. The cash and shipment applications are to the users exactly the same as they are for anything else. One difference is the cash screen itself works exactly the same to the user, but behind the scenes, that cash receipt against a progress billing milestone will be watched by a batch job that is looking for these cash receipts to come in and then evaluating if revenue hasn't been recognized yet. I have to move this to customer deposits on the liability side of my ledger so that we're tracking the fact automatically that the customer is owed that money back if we don't provide the product. The shipment functions work just as you will whether you use the green screen shipping function or the generate shipment in PowerLink. All that works the same to the end user as well. However, when you do ship, behind the scenes, the application will add credits for the milestones to balance out the revenue that's being recognized at shipment. This, in essence, means that the invoice will have a zero open balance on accounts receivable, though that can change depending on tailoring of taxes and things like that. Just showing some screens here to show that the functionality works the same way. Now we'll get to the demo so we can actually see how this thing works. I've got a recorded one. Get it started here. Okay, so as I described originally, we're going to use the functions and features right in the application that the users are already familiar with. So we'll move over here to the customer and order tab and open up an order. And what I've done here is I've created an order just for this demo. We don't have to watch every screen that a user would normally be familiar with anyway, but we'll go and review it real briefly before we continue. As you can see, this is the standard general tab. You can see the purchase order information, some other value here. I created a $10,000 order. It's nice and round numbers so that as we see things occur later, it'll be easy to calculate percentages and such, so you can follow along well. Line items look just like any other order. In this case, we've got a $10,000 machine selling a discombobulator, and all this looks very familiar to the end user. In fact, nothing has changed yet to their normal work. We're going to now go to the total invoice progress billing tab. And this is where it's a little bit different for them. So for the purposes of this demo, let's decide we're going to have a 3 milestone billing cycle where we ask for a customer deposit and before we ship it, we want additional money. And then after it is installed on site, we'll get a final settlement. As you can see here, we just picked a settlement term that is the same terms used everywhere else in the system. And we're going to have the deposit be cash in advance. As most projects, you'll want the money up front before you start your work. These billing types are a standardized file you can set up any way you like, but they're generally designed so that you can coordinate what the purpose of the milestone is. The amounts have an automatic calculation button, so you can put a percentage in and hit the button, and the total value of the order will be used for calculating that percentage. But that field doesn't show up on the invoice printed document. So we have a descriptive text here, and you can use whatever terminology you would normally use for your customers to let them know what this particular invoice is for. And after the first one, we'll continue creating new ones. The bill sequence, we tend to suggest using gaps in the sequence numbers. These sequences will be used to sort the terms on a given order. But later on, if you have change orders, you might have an additional deposit to have your customer pay and things like that. So if you want all your deposits to be grouped together, you could do that only if you put some gaps in your sequences. Here I'm putting in the prior to ship and billing term. It's 30%. The original deposit was 50%. This way we'll be getting most of the money before we ever ship the machine. And this final one here is going to be for the SAT, in other words, on-site and tested moment of time. And again, the automatic calculation figured out that that's $2,000 at least now without any change orders.
So,
so you can see that the percentages all add up to 100%. The plan amounts now add up to the total order value of $10,000. The system will halt you with errors if you try to go over 100% or go over the amount of the value of the order. And continuing through the actual process itself, now we've got an order in our system, we've got billing terms set up in our system. It's time to do some invoicing of that deposit. So we'll go into that new icon for invoicing. It's already got some things out here that are probably needing to be billed, but we only care about the new order. And you can see the new order here, 83056 right there. And that first initial down payment invoice is right there. Now, yes, this screen is designed to be using the billing date as the sort order, so that the ones that you should look at today are right up at the top.
Yeah, it's like 100 pounds is good.
So you select the record that you want to invoice, and Once you do, you can use the button at the top to produce the invoice. Right there, generate invoice. It comes up with the next invoice number for you. You could potentially change the invoice date. Maybe it was supposed to be sent out last night. You might want to put the day before. And this comment field was created from the milestone term, but you might want to change the text on that for the invoice if you like. Both that and that additional comment show up on the invoice. Now, once I hit OK, I refresh the screen and that milestone is no longer on the list.
Try to do 10K a day. Now, some days, like the other day,
I'm going to go in and now use the standard green screen functionality, just as a choice here, to receive the cash against that invoice.
Get that. I can't get 10.
So we'll use a cash receipt transaction, standard XA functionality throughout here. The accounts receivable clerk doesn't even realize potentially that this is a progress billing invoice that got paid. So, using all these fields is exactly the same as any other cash we might be receiving on a revenue based invoice.
Plus anything else, I get just more morning. I can get literally back with 7,000 right there.
The invoice was $5,000. Let's say they paid it in full. Go to the thing, we find the invoice, allocate it,
10,000 is $5.
and then hit the button to post.
I 2.5.
So now we'll go into the finance tab in order to show all the transactions that have been generated now in the regular application of XA. As I was saying in the PowerPoint, all these transactions show up right in the same ledgers and transaction areas of XA out of the box. So there's the progress billing invoice that we generated. And if we take a detailed look at this invoice, we'll see that it did post a debit to open accounts receivable and credited that contra account that we was talking about before that we configured using the general ledger interface. This will be very familiar to your financial team and how it works, because it's using the same type of functionality used for the rest of the invoicing functions. The cash receipt itself, which we'll be going to next, is also out of the box functionality. So we'll credit that account receivable as the cash happened. And in our finance area, we chose to use a clearing account for cash, and then it's moved to actual cash at a bank reconciliation time. But to the user, no difference. However, I was telling you before, oh, look, errors pop up just like in production. Obviously, we weren't doing any transaction maintenance, so it doesn't matter at this point. Now, there's a background job running that's going to evaluate cash receipts to see if progress billing is affected. And at this point, I was waiting for that. Now, there's a general journal entry that was entered by that background job. What that's doing is determining that since we haven't recognized revenue by shipping the product, we have to move that over to customer deposits, also configured as the accounts to use based on the general ledger interface. So there it moves over to customer deposits. automatically, this will save a great deal of time for your finance team having to do all this manual calculation at the end of the month to figure out what still needs to be considered a liability until it's shipped. We'll now go to back into the order. Let's say a change order came along. The customer wanted to have some additional features on that machine out there. Make it a super discombobulator. We'll add a couple of $1,000s to the selling price of it here. Normal functionality and order entry again. Go to the pricing tab, override that $10,000, make it $12,000. Now, the way that customer service management works, the total value of the order is kept in a register somewhere, but it doesn't update until you hit the update button. So you have to do that and then go back into it real quick so that the system knows what the new total is when you're working on progress billing terms. Now, we can't change the original deposit amount because it's already been invoiced, but the other terms, it might make sense that we've worked with the customer and decided that the other milestones will get this amount added for the change order automatically. So we've got a button that does exactly that. It'll use the percentages and recalculate. When we hit the button, the update button here, it's going to have recalculated those two terms that are still open and calculate a new amount. We'll update it. Lovely. Obviously, we were having a little performance issue at the time. There we go. Go back into the order. Now you can see that the 12,000 was multiplied by the percentages to give the new plan amounts for those two invoices. But remember, we still haven't dealt with the fact that that additional amount was not on a deposit. So, so we're going to add an additional deposit invoice milestone just for the change order here. We'll put the same terms on it that was on the original deposit. And luckily, because of our additional functionality here, we won't have to know how much that amount should be. It's a pretty round number, as you'll see in a moment here. We can't use the percentage anymore because it would make the total percentage greater than 100. And it's going to prevent us from being able to do that. But that's okay. We'll type out a good description of what's going on. 50% deposit on the change order itself. Create it. Now, there's also a button here to the right that will allow us to add whatever's left, whatever remaining amount is left and hasn't been put on some term, and we'll put it right on this one. So we hit continue, perform an update again, and then we'll come right back into the order to see what happened when we closed it. As you can see, it figured out that 50% of the change order was $1,000, giving us the full total order value again. So now we'll speed things up just a little bit. We know we have to invoice that deposit that we just created for the change order. And let's say over time, we're going to come back and eventually it's getting ready to ship, and we're going to invoice the prior to ship term as well. So This will just be me going through, refreshing the billing screen here that accounts receivable would be doing, selecting that initial down payment new $1,000 invoice, hitting the button. Again, you can change the comments on each one. And while here, I'm going to go ahead and invoice that prior to shipment. So if we refreshed again, those two would be gone because they are now invoices. At this point, let's go ahead and ship it because we want to take a look at what changes on the shipment invoice. So we'll use the standard functionality that you would use in your regular day-to-day work, just like any other order, in order to ship this. In this case, we're just doing a generate pick list. And then we'll come back and tell it to go ahead and use green screen to ship the function. Maybe our operations team works in green screen. So since we already confirmed it, we can go right in here and create the shipment. Type in our order number. We'll use standard warehouse. Update the ship quantity, ship one machine to them. Notice the shipment value is the full 12,000. To the shipping department, nothing was different about this order. It wasn't necessarily progress billing. They don't even know. We use the standard ways to invoice. We could do that in PowerLink or green screen. And we will select that shipment for invoicing. Of course, it will default, but I like to be exact on pick the invoice date, print the invoice, all as standard functions. Now, again, to the user community that just hit those buttons, it doesn't look any different than any other shipment, any other order. But we're going to go take a look at these transactions we just produced because I think that shipment invoice might look a little different. You can see the additional two progress billing terms invoices in here, the $1,000 one and the $3,600 one. And then we've got this one that has a GL value of $12,000. That's a little deceptive though, because once we go in, we can see that there's no open accounts receivable line in the general ledger lines. There's the revenue credit for $12,000, recognizing that we generated value and sent it to the customer. And then there are debits to the customer deposits and AR contra to zero out the amounts that would have accrued there during milestone billing. And I would point out that the 5,000 is the cash received that was moved to customer deposits, and the 7,000 is a combination of the invoices we've already invoiced and that final settlement invoice that hasn't been entered yet. So that brings us to the end of the demo portion. Back to the PowerPoint here. I want to review some of the benefits we saw during the demo. The milestone billing is all automated here. And for any of you that have attempted to do this in a manual form or with a bunch of different orders for the milestones, you understand just how complicated and convoluted it might be in a manual world. All that automation just generates a great deal of value and frees up a bunch of time for your accounting department. The customer deposits, as you saw in this, were automatically posted. So tracking them and watching those deposits increase as you invoice the milestones and deposits and decrease as you ship the product are really valuable to your finance team. The revenue will always balance to the milestones in this application because we don't allow the order to close until that does happen. There are powerful report because we're tracking all these transactions as they occur. There's powerful reporting to show the basis of the total balance of our AR Contra account and our customer deposits account at any point in time. But of course, that's critical at period close. It is very good and flexible with a lot of additional features for change orders. As we walk through a very basic change order here, you saw how it took care of the calculations in a lot of these ways for you, just to make that process so much easier. It's also fully integrated into the standard XA function. So your users are going to be very familiar with how this stuff works. Of course, the hard part will be them coming up to speed on the actual business process of milestone payments, not the functions and features in their ERP system. That brings us to the questions and answers portion. Girish, I'll turn it back over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Mike. That was a great presentation. As you highlighted, the progress billing brings tremendous value to the Infor XA by streamlining the project-based billing process and enhancing overall business efficiency. Before we open the floor for audience questions, so I would like to start with a few questions of my own. One, can progress billing handle multi-currency transactions?
Absolutely. We've implemented in several of our businesses in the UK and in Italy. And we've, of course, had to handle multiple currencies there. We operate generally internally in 3 currencies, but it's designed to be as flexible as XA can get with multi-currency. It also handles the calculations and reporting in the background. Yes, out of the box XA handles currency gains and losses, for example, between the invoice time and the cash time. That's fine, but we also, for these other accounts we talked about, we have to understand the gains and losses over time in the AR Contra account while between the invoice and the shipment, or in customer deposits account between the time we receive that cash and the time we ship the goods. That is a totally different gain or loss that XA doesn't even know about. So we've got reporting to support it. And we went through some very complicated testing before we were ever allowed to implement in Europe for that.
Great. Let's get into my second question. Okay. This is something that we commonly customize. Is the progress billing compatible with XA releases and Infor e-financials?
So we have taken it up through very, very recent releases of XA. As you saw, it was all built in PowerLink. It's It's already been implemented all the way through XA Release 10. While we haven't yet deployed it anywhere in enterprise financials terms, we did discuss how it is based directly on the capabilities and architecture inside XA. And therefore, we have done the research, and it is a very reasonable set of steps to alter it for implementation to enterprise financials. We're ready for that.
Right. Okay. My final question. So what's your experience when implementing this module across various divisions of Barry Miller?
Well, we've allowed a lot of flexibility in all our divisions. So we've had to tweak and tailor the progress billing application as we've rolled it out across well, a good dozen companies at least. And that example of multi-currency is one very clear one, but there are several others. I would tell you that one of the bigger challenges was allowing it to be implemented in different methodologies of taxes. When we implemented it in Europe, it had to handle VAT rules. And one of those rules is that every time you invoice, you have to charge VAT if it's applicable. And that means all the milestones had to have standard VAT practices. In the US, we have sales tax. And yes, the XA engine can handle sales tax. It's a lot of work to keep up with all the rate changes and things like that if you ship all over the US. And so many of our divisions are using external tax providers for that. And it will integrate with them just fine. We've done it multiple ways.
Thank you, Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add there is almost every time we implement, we tweak and tailor the invoice print function to better match whatever invoice is already being printed by the customer.
Thank you, Mike, for sharing those valuable insights and practical experiences. So I think it was great. At this point, the floor is now open for additional questions from the audience. So Mike, I believe like your presentation was very precise, and audience cannot have additional questions. But Mike Jeff is asking, like, are you utilizing special charges for billing types?
Special charges and inventory items and miscellaneous non-inventory items are all considered as part of the total for the order value. So yes, they are handled well in there. There is one caution I would give. If it is a standard for you to have your shipping department add special charges at shipment, special care when implementing has to be taken for how that works with the application. Because frankly, usually when you're doing that would be considered a change order, and usually when you're doing a change order, you want to update your terms right away, and the shipping clerk's not going to do that.
Okay. Jeff, hopefully that answered your question. Okay, if not, so thank you everyone for your participation and engagement today. This concludes our webinar, Progress Building for Infor XA. Yep.
Brian is typing one question. I think we have to wait for him.
Sure.
I see Brian typing. Hey, Brian, you want to post your question here?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, sure.
Again, thank you everyone. I would like to extend a special thank to our presenter, Mike Kelly, and our panelists for sharing their expertise and making this such an informative and valuable session. I would also like to thank all our attendees for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. We hope you found today's webinar insightful and gained practical knowledge. We look forward to having you join us for future design group webinars and events. Thank you. Have a great day, and we hope to see you again soon.